the order of operations, which you are very familiar with at this point, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but there are some new wrinkles. So first, you're looking at this going, wait, it's supposed to be PEMDAS. Well, yeah, but GEMDAS also works. Okay, it's just like PEMDAS, it's just earlier in the alphabet because G comes before P. Instead of parentheses, G is for grouping, which includes parentheses and absolute value signs and anything happening underneath a radical, square root sign, which is why we switch from parentheses to grouping, because it covers a lot more symbols now. E still stands for exponents. You'll see the radicals are here as well. That would be after we do anything under a radical and we're looking at something like the square root of 16. The exponent step is where we would turn the square root of 16 into 4. And then your typical multiply and divide in order from left to right, add and subtract in order from left to right. That part is not new and is not changing. So we're going to start with some old order of operations problems, things you have done many, many times. So in this first example, there are no parentheses, there's no grouping symbols, there is an exponent. We have negative 4 squared. The negative 4 is not in parentheses, so it is not negative 4 times negative 4, it's the opposite of 4 squared. That's negative 16. And the rest we just carry along. Now we have division and multiplication, so I have to do those in order. So 24 divided by 3 is 8. Now I can do the multiplication. 8 times 2 is 16. And negative 16 plus 16 is nothing. Same number with opposite signs will combine to 0. When you're solving these problems, yes, I expect you to copy the problem from the book, and I want to see each step of work, so you're only allowed to basically do one thing at a time. When we have fractions, we can basically treat the numerator and the denominator separately, and then if they play nice at the end, great. If not, we just have a fraction. So in the numerator, I do have an exponent that has to be taken care of first. 2 squared is 4. Now, in both the numerator and denominator, I only have addition and subtraction, so I can combine these. In the numerator, 22 and 4 are both negative, so same sign, keep that sign, add the numbers. In the denominator, 5 minus 3 is just 2. And these numbers do play nice, so I will simplify. Negative 26 divided by 2 is negative 13. Yes, before you ask the question, you must always simplify your fractions. That doesn't mean you have to change them to mixed numbers. You don't have to do that in Algebra 1. But if you give me something that simplifies, you're going to lose a point. So now we've got ourselves some grouping symbols. First example, I've got paired grouping symbols. I've got groups within groups, which is why there are brackets in addition to parentheses. Brackets are just a way of saying, hey, this is a big group, parentheses are a smaller group. So the order of operations says do groups first. Well, inside the first group, the square brackets, there is a 25 minus parentheses and an exponent. So I have to go through the order of operations inside the order of operations. Inside the square brackets, there are parentheses. They must be dealt with first because they're a grouping symbol. So this 4, he's going to carry along for quite a while. 25 isn't going to be touched for a little while either. The parentheses we can do. 5 minus 2 is 3. The exponent hasn't been touched yet, and close the bracket. Now, inside the brackets, I have subtraction and an exponent. I have to do the exponent first. 3 squared is 9. Now I only have subtraction in the grouping symbol. So 25 minus 9 is 16. And now I just have 4 times 16. Okay, just like brackets act like parentheses in that you multiply once you've got it down to a number inside. 4 times 16 is 64. So that's grouping in grouping. Our next problem has absolute value. So absolute value is a grouping symbol. So we've got to do anything inside absolute value first. Here we can see I've got 10 minus 5 squared. So I've got subtraction and an exponent. Well, I've got to do the exponent first. 5 squared is 25. The rest of it just carries along. Now I am allowed to do the subtraction. 10 minus 25 is negative 15. Remember, those have different signs, so subtract them. 25 minus 10 is 15, keeping the sign of the bigger number. 25 is negative, keep it negative. Now we have the absolute value of negative 15 divided by 5. Now we can do the absolute value properly. So we have to remember what absolute value does. Absolute value, some people, incorrectly, think of as a sign flipper. That's not what it does. It looks at the number inside, and yes, it has to be just a number inside, and says, okay, are you negative? If yes, destroy negative. If no, leave alone. 15 would be fine, because 15 by itself is positive. This is negative 15. So when absolute value looks at this, it says, are you negative? Negative 15 goes, yes, I am. And absolute value goes, that's nice, I'm going to destroy your negative sign now. The absolute value of negative 15 is 15. Now I'm left with a division problem. 15 divided by 5 is 3. There will also be some substitution problems thrown at you. No big deal. Evaluate this expression for x being 7. So all you got to do is put 7 in place of x, and then follow your order of operations. So multiply first, add and subtract from left to right in order. So 21 minus 7 is 14. 14 and 10 is 24. Again here, putting 24 in for x, so we're going to have 5 squared times 30 minus 24. Order of operations says do what's in the grouping symbols first. So that's going to be 30 minus 24, that is 6. Do the exponent next, so we're going to have 25 times 6. And now that's just multiplication. 6 25s is 150. Last thing to look at are radical signs. So radical signs act like parentheses and exponents, meaning we will simplify, do everything we can underneath the radical first, then we will take the square root of the number, then we will continue on with life as normal. So, the negative 44 is just going to carry along for a good long while. Underneath here, I've got multiplication, division, and parentheses. So I've got to do what's in the parentheses first. 12 divided by 2, of course, is 6. Now, underneath the square root, I have multiplication and division, so I'm supposed to do that in order from left to right. 4 times 6 is 24. Our negative 44 keeps carrying along. We'll get to him eventually. I can now do the division under here. So 24 divided by 6 is 4. Now that I've got just a number underneath that square root, I can actually do the square root. The square root of 4 is 2. And now it's a division problem. Negative 44 divided by 2 is negative 22.